I made it with this scraggly fan brush. Alright, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name's Caden Goldberg and I'm a professional landscape painter. Today I'm going to be painting a plein air painting on location here in southern Arizona. I'm going to paint the scene. Behind me, it's a bunch of senna bushes kind of in a line going off into the distance, and then some distant mountains behind it. I'm going to try and keep the painting pretty loose and expressive. That's sort of my goal for the painting today. So I'm just going to lay out my colors on my palette and we'll just jump right into the video. I decided to use a crusty old fan brush to make this entire painting. I didn't want to use anything else, just the fan brush, just as an experiment to see how the painting would turn out and what textures I could achieve with it. At this point, I have no idea how this painting is going to turn out. I'm just keeping it really loose and trying to squint at the scene and block in the bigger shapes. Kind of start getting some variety in color and value. There's kind of this really nice contrast between all of the green and then there's sort of some purplish warm tones in all the sticks that are in the senna bushes. So I'm trying to get that interesting complementary contrast there. Now, as you can see, I've completely ignored the fact that there's all these yellow flowers on the bushes. I really want to get the foundation and structure set up before I add those, because that's sort of the icing on the cake, and you don't want to put the icing on the cake before the cake is baked. As these mountains recede into the distance, they get a little bit bluer and a little bit lighter, and that will help push them way off into the distance. I notice with the fan brush, you really can only get a sharp edge if you turn it sideways and kind of paint with the edge of the brush. I personally feel like it's really important that you actually look at the color of your sky. A lot of artists will just paint the sky blue, but by getting the actual color that you're seeing out there, that color will help influence the mood of your painting and the lighting that is falling across the rest of the landscape. I like to move back and forth between light and shadow in my paintings. I find that I can achieve more interesting brushwork if I'm cutting back into the light side with the shadows and then coming back over the shadows with the light. It's a constant back and forth until I achieve the visual image that I want. Now I notice in this area that there's some nice purples that are sort of scattered throughout the green, and that's adding a little bit of variety so that I don't just have this green blob up in the foreground. I'm always trying to think about how to keep the viewer's eye within the painting, so you'll notice I darken the top of the hill and then put some directional strokes that help lead the eye back into the scene. Standing back from the painting while holding your brush towards the very end will help you get more expressive strokes. I'm going to put some highlights on these bushes up in the foreground, and in doing that I'm going to keep my paint mixed, a little bit undermixed, and use very thick paint, as you can see. I just have a few adjustments to make on these bushes before I add the highlights with the flowers. Now I'm thinking about these flowers being in shadow versus being in light. When they go into shadow, they're a little bit more orange and slightly darker, and almost pure Hansa Yellow when they go into light. By putting some bolder, larger strokes up in that front bush, it kind of pulls it forwards, and then getting softer and smaller dabs of yellow in the distant bushes. Alright, that's going to about wrap it up for this painting. I made it with this scraggly fan brush. It was kind of an interesting process. Not able to get into any details, but it did get a lot of really interesting textures. I think that it's really important to experiment with your paintings and try out different things. So that was what I was trying out today, just to see if I could make a painting with this crappy little brush. So thanks for watching, and I have links to all of my materials in the description below. I also have a link to my website where you can purchase paintings, and if you'd like to support the channel, there's also a donation link below. Thanks for watching the video, and we'll see you in the next one.